Hello, and welcome to the next installment of Miss Logan's Office Mix presentations. Today we're going to talk about adaptations. Adaptations. So what am I learning? You are learning how to analyze the structural, behavioral, and physiological adaptations to predict which populations are likely to survive in a particular environment. Why are you learning it? Well, that's a good question. It's in order to better understand why animals go extinct and why there are so many animals that look different but are related and those that look alike that are not related at all. And how will I know I've learned it? You will be able to answer the following question. How do species adapt their behavior and physical structure in order to survive? All right, so what is an adaptation? An adaptation is a structural, physiological, or behavioral trait that allows an organism to survive and reproduce.
On a Jeep and another on my chest so I can rest on the sizzling sands that ride like a pan. Of course, I'm the Sahara and my caravan. I'm the legendary dromedary. 400 pounds on my back in the desert I carry. Nothing to drink until the next oasis. Water is precious, so we never waste it. Not a drop of rain, it's ever extra dry, but I never get a grain of sand in my eye. If the wind blows gyros, sand tornadoes, I got better legs kicked than J-Lo. Long and thick with a double lash, close and fast, built to last. In the hump on my back, got an extra tank, like a savings bank, packed with fat. The hump on my back is packed with fat. The hump on my back is packed with fat. The hump on my back is packed with fat. Won't say it again, cause you know all that. Thick lips, eat sticks and bone, thorny scrubs that others leave alone. Sometimes sip on the salty brine, cause the H2O is hard to find. My shaggy fur insulates, my body temps regulate, so I don't sweat and dehydrate. Live another day to procreate.
All right, so let's talk about those three types of adaptations. We have behavioral, what an organism does or how it behaves. Structural, what an organism is, its shape or form, like the word structure. And physiological, that's the things you can't see, the changes on the inside. If you take a look at the image of the hibernating bear, is this a behavioral, structural, or physiological adaptation? If you said behavioral, you are correct. It's what the animal does. So behavioral adaptations, again, what an organism does to survive, the special ways it behave. Like this possum playing dead when it senses danger to try and fool its predator. It's not really dead and it's not changing its body or its insides, it's just acting or behaving, so that is a behavioral adaptation. There are two key behavioral adaptations. There is sexual reproduction, requires two parents, male and female, or asexual reproduction, where it requires only one parent. These are the main behavioral adaptations, although there are some others. Well, I take that back. They're not the main behavioral adaptations, but they are two big behavioral adaptations. So you have animals that reproduce sexually, or organisms like dogs, human beings, anything that takes a male and a female. And then you have those who reproduce asexually, like Hydra here. So again, looking at these three types of adaptations, let's take another look at another example. We have the camouflage example here. I don't know if you can see, but there are insects in this picture below, and those arrows are actually pointing to it. So this example here, could you tell me if it is behavioral, structural, or physiological? This one is mainly a structural because it's a change that the insects have adapted to by developing their bodies that look like thorns. So these little animals right here are actually organisms that have changed their body structure to where over time they look like they are thorns on branches. Now it's very important to note any of these adaptations, they do not happen quickly or overnight. They take thousands and thousands of years to slowly change and evolve based on where they live. So our structural adaptations, another example is rabbits. Rabbits have widely spaced eyes that give them a wide field of vision for surveillance and detection of danger. So they can be nibbling on the clover out in the field and they can sense things all the way around them. They have structurally adapted the parts of their eyes to help them survive. Another adaptation is our physiological adaptations. This is changes in the animal's insides, things that you can't necessarily see. So snake venom is one of these. It's a highly modified saliva that is produced by special glands of certain species of snakes. So it's very poisonous. It does not change the structure of their body, and it is not a behavior or some way that they act. It is their physiological adaptation. I want you to think about now if you can go back and think about the oh dear activity that we completed in class. When those deer were struggling to survive, what were some adaptations they had to make in order to survive? If you think about that, they started running faster. They started pushing other deer out of their way. Okay, they started to think a little bit more about what they really needed. Do they really need food, or do they need water, or do they need shelter? And they kind of figured out where they were going to go, and so that's where they lived or where they got on the line at, so they could get closer to the people they knew were going to have that food or shelter. So now let's go ahead and take another brief look at another video.
25. After the rainy season, African pixie frogs will burrow underground and seal themselves in mucus sacs for up to 7 years until it rains again. 24. If you ever happen to scare a southern red muntjac deer, be prepared for a lot of dog-like barking. 23. Cape ground squirrels give us all a reason to be a bit jealous, as they use their tails for their own personal shade. 22. Thanks to specialized metabolisms, scorpions can go without eating for an entire year. 21. A male sand grouse will collect water in its feathers and take it back to the nest to share with its family. 20. The basket star has hidden arms and uses its tendrils to wrap around plankton and feed on them. 19. Known as Waller's gazelle, this unique feeding posture of standing on two legs allows these creatures to reach higher branches. 18. Tree hoppers have ants on their backs. Okay, it's not really an ant, but they've successfully managed to imitate one with their backside. 17. Vultures pee on themselves. As if eating rotting flesh wasn't gross enough, they actually let the pee run down their legs to cool off. 16. If you ever try picking up a fishhook ant, you'll be in for a nasty surprise. It won't come off. The hook's on its back attached to its predator. Now, imagine sticking your hand into a colony. 15. The wrybill has a twisted beak and the bend helps it gather food. 14. The Dorcas gazelle never needs to drink water or urinate. Although it will drink if it can, it has the capability of getting all the water it needs from its food. 13. Mario fans rejoice. The tanuki, or raccoon dog, looks like a raccoon. Native to East Asia, this creature is 100% canine. No raccoon blood whatsoever. 12. Roadrunners pee from their eyeballs. While it's not urination in the same sense we're typically used to, every animal has to get rid of excess minerals somehow. Roadrunners cry them out. 11. Clown loaches have knives below their eyes. Officially called bifurcated subocular spines, they're basically super sharp blades that the fish can shoot out from under their eyes. 10. Caecilians are worm-like amphibians that eat their mom's skin. In their defense, she will grow thicker skin to provide them with nutrients. Still pretty weird though, right? Right? Yeah, it's pretty weird. 9. The tufted deer has fangs and uses them primarily to fight other males for mates and territory. 8. Known as the ET salamander, this little guy breathes through its skin and also has become quite famous for his ugliness. 7. Kangaroos salivate on themselves to cool down. Hey, when you don't have sweat glands, you have to make do. 6. Known as the maned wolf, scientists believe that it developed super long legs to see predators above the high South American grasses. 5. The short-horned lizard of North America shoots blood out of its eye as a defense mechanism, and probably wins the gross prize with this one. 4. The okapi can lick its eyeball. That's right, this horse-looking creature has a tongue so long that it uses it to clean its eyes. 3. The blotchy gray-hooded seal has what is possibly the least attractive mating ritual ever, blowing bubbles out of its nose. 2. During summer, the addax antelope's coat is white so as to reflect the sun, but in winter it turns brown in order to absorb the sun's rays. 1. The osidax, also known as the zombie worm, doesn't have a mouth. Rather, it secretes acid onto the food to dissolve it, and then sucks it through its skin.
All right, so moving on, looking at environmental changes. When environmental changes occur, organisms must change or adapt by either changing their behavior or their body structure or both or their physiological insides. So the process that drives variation is called natural selection. And I know you've heard natural selection before. Changes and variations result from sexual reproduction over many generations, and that's where I said years and years and years, and the changes in the environment. Changes and variation also result from genetic mutations over many generations, and those changes in the environment. So if we look at the 4 phases of natural selection, we see phase 1 is overproduction. This is where there's more offspring that are born than will live to become adults. Okay, so this is where there's just too many of them and they produce way more, like breeding rabbits, in order to make sure that some live to survive. Phase 2 is your genetic variations within populations. These individuals in a population are different from one another. Some of the different characteristics improve the chances that this individual will survive and reproduce. Others lower these chances. For example, rabbits that are stronger or faster are more likely to survive and reproduce than weaker, slower ones. Or like our deer who were faster and stronger, they were more likely to get those resources and survive than those that were not. Phase 3 is our struggle to survive. An environment might not have enough food or water for every individual born. Many individuals are also killed by other organisms or by speeding cars. And others cannot find mates. Only some individuals survive and reproduce. And that brings us to our last phase, phase 4. successful reproduction. So successful reproduction is the key to natural selection or survival of the fittest. These individuals that have better adaptations for living in their environment and for finding mates are more likely to reproduce. Those that are not well adapted to their environment are more likely to die early or to have few offspring. So those with the adaptations that don't survive, eventually those adaptations, maybe the rabbits with only 3 legs instead of 4, those are going to be the ones that die off, and you're not going to see as many of those rabbits. However, those rabbits that are faster or those rabbits that have a stronger sense of smell, they're going to survive longer, and more of them will survive. That over time more and more of them will reproduce, and that will be the common adaptation you see. So let's go ahead and have another video and see what can help us remember the 4 phases of natural selection. All right, so now that we've talked about adaptations and natural selection, let's go ahead and review with a couple questions. So, the Arctic environment has temperatures that range between 22 degrees Celsius and 6 degrees Celsius, with snow covering some of the area. Which adaptation would most likely help a population of organisms survive in this environment? Would it be green feathers and webbed feet, or light colored fur and layers of blubber? Now, if we think about this and we say it's an environment, and even if you don't know what 22 degrees Celsius and 6 degrees Celsius is in our Fahrenheit standards, we do know that snow is covering some of the area. And we want populations to survive. Do you think an organism that has bright green feathers would be able to survive very well? Or one that is very light colored fur that you can't see in that snow? Okay, more than likely it's going to be our light colored fur. And then our layers of blubber is just like our fat, so that's going to keep us insulated in these colder temperatures. All right, let's try another one. Which population would best be adapted to maneuver in a rocky, mountainous region? Now, I know some of you don't know what maneuver means, but we have the words rocky and mountainous. Do you think something with gills or something with hooves could live in rocky and mountain regions? Well, we should know that gills are things on fish, and so obviously fish can't live in the Rocky Mountains. So we need to find something with hooves. That's something that horses have, or cows have, or goats. And then if I go back to this, I could probably figure out, well, if I'm talking about hooves and Rocky Mountainous, maneuver means then probably to move. So my answer here is going to be B. All right, let's move to the next one. Ah! I just thought I'd scare you and wake you up a little bit. I hope you're still with me. We got just a couple more. Hopefully you come in and you're not scared to death already. All right, last couple. Which adaptations of black bears best help them survive cold winters? Is it being able to hibernate or having a large home range? And again, if we're talking about cold winters, we want to be able to hibernate. And then I think this is our last question. A musk ox is a large, heavy mammal. It has short legs and is covered in long, thick hair. It's shown here in the picture. Based on its characteristics, which environment is a population of a musk ox best suited to live? Well, we have tundra and we have the rainforest. And now, even if you don't know what tundra is, or you can't remember your different environments, we do see that this says rain and forest. And if I'm looking at a big animal like this, I don't think he wants to live in the rain. That's a lot of fur that's going to get matted down and nasty and gross and stinky and smelly. And he doesn't look like he could fit in a forest very well with a lot of trees. He probably would knock them all down. So the best option for me is going to say a tundra. And there you go. I believe that's our last slide. So hopefully you've gotten through this presentation pretty well and you understand it. Please, please, please write down any questions you had. Go back and make sure I know what you know what those are so you can ask me first thing Monday morning. Have a great weekend. And again, sorry, hope I didn't scare you too much. I was just trying to make it a little more interesting for you.